All right, chat back to you.
Okay, as we kind of move forward and start discussing some of those um, ways to modernize and optimize our infrastructure, in to kind of stay consistent with what Saul and Will are saying, automation and is fundamental when we start to look at how do we properly uh, deploy without overhead. Saul, can you kind of get a little bit more into that automation perspective?
Absolutely. Yeah, so a lot like what you said, it's more of a fundamental. It's no longer nice to have. We're in the era where we can have AI and other mechanisms to provide a lot of the automation for us. It's built into a lot of the systems. So for me, it's becoming the backbone of modern IT management. Across the industry, it's considered somewhat of a best practice because it does reduce the risk at a quicker rate. It keeps teams more focused on higher value work. And you don't longer have to feel like we're working in the industrial age where things are kind of being ran hand by, factory hand by hand. And, you'll get the job done, you'll get some results, but more than likely there's some error to slip through the cracks. Again, it's quite exhausting. So we don't want to do the same task more than once. We can always automate it. Right. And that's something that I've actually learned a lot here in our managed services is taking the mindset of if we can do it more than once and we can also teach it, then why not teach a system to do it more than once for us and automate it in a routine level? It just makes things move faster, stay consistent, like Will said, and just scale with confidence. And that's where the efficiency comes to play is uh, like patching we just discussed. Again, I don't want to get too touchy with patching, but it's something I deal with all the time, but I think I can relate with the most is if I had to patch every single machine manually, every month, I don't think I would be here having this webinar, to be honest. It'd be too exhausting. But routine tasks like patching or account setups, right? It can be an onboarding of a new employee. Those things can manually take hours, but we can make those happen in minutes, right? We can have some sort of scheduled task or some scheduled routine where it's running in the background because we've already given it the commands to do the job for us. And then from the business perspective, as the environment grows, the automation also ensures that we don't collapse under the complexity or the overhead that we might have on staff. The scalability or more of that, I meant to say more consistency across the board as well as it removes um, the aspect of more human error, was what I noticed. It's the same steps being ran across reliably every single time, and the automated workflows as well can make sure that we, stay in line when we're, creating some type of report or some type of audit trail. It's kind of a default, setting that we can run with. Again, I'll mention security and compliance because I just love security so much. Um, Automated updates, right? The it's beautiful. It's beautiful to see that, you don't have to worry about your OS system, your Office apps, your browsers, all of these components, all of these attack surfaces falling behind on patching. And one of the slides here that is shown is illustrating a pipeline of automation covering from the turning on of actual virtual machine to applying Windows patching to updating the Office apps and then updating all the browsers and then even turning off the machine for us and then creating a snapshot of some sort of copy to push out to our environment. Now, this is all usually done by an internal IT staff, hand by hand or an IT team, which can take hours. But with this automation workflow, this simple example, it no longer requires that overhead. It's a click of a button. And that's a lot of the things that we try to implement here is, can we make this happen with a click of a button? Yes, we can. And this is an illustration of that. And it's a little blurry to see, but those those little pipelines there, those tiles there show what each job is doing and what's it's set to perform. And that's how we can break those things down. And that also, ties back to life cycle management, patching cycle and making sure we have good asset inventory in line. Um, I think we discussed a little bit of disaster recovery a little bit as well as the automation. If we have some automated process to deploy or bring up a virtual machine, a critical piece of our infrastructure within minutes versus having to have a whole team or a whole set of staff to get these components together, that's where automation can change the game for us when it comes to data recovery or data resiliency, right? There's so many efforts when it comes to automation that I can exemplify from a day-to-day operations, from onboarding. Um, I can go into new hire gets onboarded and we want to make sure that they're provisioned with the right user permissions and not over provisioned. Well, that all can be scaled to a way where we can implement some automation when the new hire gets onboarded. And no longer do we have to worry about making sure that they can access certain applications or, you know, making sure that they can get to the actual physical building at their headquarters, right? Everything's already automated and set up for them. It just makes things a lot easier. Again, a lot a lot of less work for your internal IT staff to have to maintain. Um, and it's really just the future. We're living in it now. Why not just hop on the board and just make sure that we start to adopt the mindset of using automation in conjunction if you want to throw AI in there because it just makes life a lot easier to automate some of these tasks. It's it's the leverage that we can take into consideration for the business and for the technical team as well. Because at the end of the day, we want our technical team to adopt new skill sets, not necessarily become stale. We want them to learn new products. We want them to be a little bit more versatile, not just be stuck on one certain skill set, but scale out and range out even more, right? So, how do we start building automation? You're probably wondering, where do I start? I mean, you can kind of take the idea of just identifying some of the top repetitive tasks that kind of drain time that you have to do. And you start small. You start small with those ideas that you have to do every day, and then automate one process at a time, right? And then you track your time on the time you invested versus the time you saved, right? And then you standardize that workflow. And then you start to get into the business level of, well, what's my ROI, right? What's my return of investment in this? How do I reduce the downtime? Okay, I've reduced downtime. I've got fewer tickets. I got faster onboarding. How do I validate this and show this to the business so that way we can adopt this in another department or in another environment, right? And then it just expands from there exponentially. So to me, I don't think automation is more of a tech trend. um, it's more of a foundation, absolutely, for just running a smarter and IT business, scaling the business operations, and then just freeing a lot more of your IT teams from that repetitive, mundane task that they have to do. That I'm sure they look forward to doing every single day. But but yeah, and I know that from experience. So I think again, these are another thing. Automation, patching, they chose the wrong person to talk about these things. I can keep going all day. So I'll kind of leave it at that and let Will kind of cover if anything that I missed.